Okay, let us talk about string operations. So string operations are really important because we are going to be using them in our programs. So I will again go step by step and you will have a thorough understanding on string operations. So let us start with string concatenation, which is very important. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create two strings. Let's say message1 equals hello and message2 world. So in this regard, we can do implicit and explicit concatenation, and I'm going to explain them both. So here, let's say, for example, print hello world. In this regard, my result will be hello world. But here I didn't use variable names because it's gonna give me an error if I'm trying to do implicit concatenation. If you go with implicit concatenation, you need to use string literals, which is a string is not assigned to a variable. Okay? So here, if I want to do something like this, print message1 and message2. Basically, I want to print them one after the other. This is gonna give me an error. Okay, so what I need to use in this regard is explicit concatenation. So it's really easy as well. For example, print message1. You need to use plus operator to explicitly concatenate. Then let's say message2. Okay, so in this regard, my result will be hello world. Okay, but here we have a problem. We don't have space, between hello and world because we didn't create any space character here. Okay, so if we have space character in our string, then we'll see the output with space character as well. I will show you what I exactly mean on PyCharm in a couple of minutes. So let us also understand string repetition, which is also very easy to understand. So Python offers us a lot of things to use, and it just says that, okay, you just need to write your code. I'm gonna help you with everything you need. So here, for example, I have a variable message, and I just store the value of hello. So here I'm gonna say something like this: print message multiply by 3. So in this regard, my result will be hello, hello, hello. Okay, it's just gonna give me the result of hello multiplied by 3. And here multiplication is not about numerical multiplication, it's just repetition of our string. Okay, so here let's see concatenation with a numeric value. So to be able to do this, I'm gonna explain you something. But first, let's say I just have a message here, and let's say I am Bob and 25 years old. So in this regard, that's, when I print message, I'm not gonna get any error. There's no problem about this. But sometimes we want to use variable names in our strings. And to be able to do this, we might need to use plus operator. So how am I gonna do that? So here I'm gonna say, instead of typing this, I'm gonna do something like this. Let's say I am plus our name variable. Okay, and I am Bob and 25. So we want to use 25, right? And to be able to do this, I'm gonna just say age and years old. Here what we are doing is really easy. Don't confuse with that. So here we just concatenated all of those strings. But we have a problem here. The problem is all of these values are strings except one, which is age. And we want to use age in our string as well. So how can we do that? So to be able to do that, we have a function in Python, which is str function. And it basically converts my data types to strings. So for example, I have number equals 5. And if I want to convert this into a string, I will do something like this. String, for example, number, another variable name, and I will just type str number. So it's going to take this number and it will give me an str instead of an integer. And my result will be something like this. So this is our number in string. Okay, so here if I want to use this, I have to do something like this, strh. So since this is a string now, I can use it with plus operator. I can concatenate all of my strings. Okay, but what we have done here, we have used string function and we basically converted one data type to another. So this is called casting in Python. And we can do this with other data types as well. For example, you want to convert this to a string. How could you do that? You will just use float keyword. You will just use str keyword and you will put this variable into this function. So let's say float variable, of course with underscore. So, and it will give you a result something like this. 3.14 in a string. And you could do the same thing with this int variable as well. So let's say int variable. And in this one, we will get a result something like this. So this is not an integer anymore. This is a number in a string, which is a string, okay? And you could also do something like this. If a number is in a string, you can also convert it to an integer or float as well. And to be able to do this, you will use a function, let's say int here. And when you put this variable, for example, in int, let's say string, so this is a string, right? And I want to convert it to an integer. And it's really easy to do that. You will just get a result of 13. And we could also do something like this. I will just say float. So here I have a float in a string. So this is basically a string. And I want to convert it to a float. How could I do that? I will just type float in, okay, string. Sorry about my typing skills. So here we'll get 2.71. Okay, so let us code, some of these examples and we'll have a thorough understanding on that. So here I will first show you implicit concatenation and it's really easy. Don't worry about it. Just print, let's say, hello world. And let us just right click and run and see our results. So hello world without a space, because I didn't use any space in these strings. Even though I have multiple space here, it doesn't matter. I will get the same result again and again. So if I want to create a space between my words, I need to use them in my string. Or I could do the same thing here as well. We could do the same thing. And let's see our results. So it's hello world now. But if I want to use some variable names, for example, message1 equals hello and message2, let's say world. In this one, we have to use explicit concatenation, which is a concatenation we are using plus operator. So let's say print message1 plus message2. In this regard, when I run my code, I will get this result. So what if I want to use space here? So I could add my space here or here, it doesn't matter, but I could also do something like this. So when I do that, so these are all strings, message1 is a string, this is a string which contains a space character, and this is also a string. I can concatenate as many strings as I want, okay? So let's say hello world. Okay, so I think that makes sense. I suggest using explicit concatenation. And if you go that way, it will be easier to understand things. So let's say string repetition. It's really easy. So let's say hi, which is a variable name, and I will say hello. And let's say print hi multiply by 10. So in this one, I have to get this hello 10 times. Let us also see concatenation with numeric values. Let's assume that we directly want to print it, and I'm gonna do something like this. I am Bob and I am 25 years old. So instead of doing this, I want to use variables. And how could I do that? So here, let's say we want to use variables instead of, typing everything in my string. So it's really easy to do that. So I'm just say I am and plus. Instead of Bob, I want to use my variable name, which is name. And this and will also be a string. And here plus and I am, let's say 25. Instead of doing this, I want to use age and years old. I have to use this plus operator again. So here we have a problem. Everything we have here, I am, name, and I am and years old. These are all strings, but age is an integer, and we want to convert it to a string. And it's really easy. You just need to cast it using str function. And now I'm not gonna get any error. And here I am Bob and I'm 25 years old. Because we didn't use any space, you could add spaces here and it's just look complicated. But when we add spaces, it will look better. let's say. Okay, everything looks cool, right? So here you could also add separate strings which contains a space character. It doesn't really matter. So, casting is really important in programming. We'll use casting in a lot of places while using our files, while doing our programs. So just make sure that you know casting in a good way. Okay, here, let us convert some of them. So for example, I want to convert this to a float because this is now a string. So how can I do that? So let's say float variable, and I want to use this float keyword, and by doing this I will just cast my variable, and here let's say float in string, and when I print the type of it, you can use just type function to see the class of some variables. You can just say float variable. So this was a string, but I just cast it to a float using float function. So when I do that and run my code, I will get the class float. But at the beginning, if I print type of this float in string, it will give me something like this. It's str. Even though it contains a float in it, this is a string because it's created with code. So just try to play around with other, variables and try to do some examples on your own. This is a very important one to understand. And when you understand the logic of casting, you won't have any problems in upcoming videos. So that's gonna do it for this one. I will see you in the next one.